Hello.
Hello, we did it.
We made it.
Yeah, awesome. Um, Everyone, I want to introduce you to Katherine Fox, who has just somebody that came into our real estate world, and my team and I just think she's really interesting, and I want to share what she does with all of you. And so, Katherine Fox owns a company called Sunny Branch Wealth, with an incredibly interesting niche of financial planning. And one of the things I've really loved, Katherine, is I've been watching your Instagram. I've been seeing all the content you've been posting, and not only is it super entertaining and super well done, it's also almost everything that you put on there are things I've never thought about. Like I've never thought about these problems that someone in that position would have, or fears, concerns, all of this stuff. And I just thought that was so fascinating. So I would love to hear from you about like how you got into this. I know I'm going to have questions that come up, but the first thing I want to ask you is about the name Sunny Branch Wealth. I was looking on your website and I saw that it was inspired by your grandmother.
Yeah. Yeah. It was the name of her house. She grew up on Bainbridge. Well, she didn't grow up, but she lived on Bainbridge Island, which is outside of Seattle. Um, and it was like a really important place for me personally and for my family as a gathering place and really a central hub. That's where we did all of our holidays growing up. And beyond that, my grandma was a really important person to me and really like a big part of my job is talking to people about how to talk to their families about money and values and like how to work with your family to pass down values and wealth across generations. And one of the things that I bring into my work that's kind of unique in this space is that I had models. Like I had models of people who taught me how to do this. And that's my parents and also my grandma, who was a dedicated like public servant. She was didn't have like a working career, but she was basically a professional board member her whole life and raised huge amounts of money for a lot of large institutions in Seattle and across Washington state. And she did it because it was something that she was passionate about and something that she loved doing and something that she felt needed to be done. And so a big part of like my work at Sunny Branch is figuring out how to carry that legacy forward and how you kind of live your life in 2024 in a 2024 world, but you still have all those values, right, that are so important that were, honed and developed in like the 1950s. So she and my mom and my great grandma are huge inspirations in my work and really inform a lot of how I approach what I do with clients, which is, as you mentioned, pretty different than kind of what a lot of more traditional wealth advisors do.
What I really get from seeing what you've been putting on online is it really seems like a very deep, long relationship that you have with clients. That's really getting them through different phases of life, and also, I think this resonates with me as well, in the sense that we are, as a real estate company, we are not into just like the one little transactional situation, right? We want to be advisors and part of somebody's team for life. And I really feel that from you watching the content that you put out.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, and I hadn't really thought about it, but there are kind of a lot of similarities. I mean, probably across a lot of professions, but since I do what I do and you do what you do, right? Like when you think about someone who is going to be inheriting wealth, like they are going to go, most people, not everyone, but to generalize, like you're going to go through these stages, right? Like you're going to go through the phase, maybe in your late teens or early 20s where you start to understand like how much money your family actually has. And like you're going to grow into adulthood. You're going to start managing your own finances. Like then it's going to become even more clear, like how much money your family has. Maybe they're helping you out with things. And so it's like you go through so many different stages as like just a person who is growing up in a family with wealth before you even inherit. And like the wealth management industry, like they're happy to help you right after you've inherited millions of dollars. Like there are people that are going to be lining up, like raising their hands, to
Right.
say like, oh, I can help you manage that inheritance. And I do that work too, but there isn't anyone, at least who I know of, who's working with future inheritors in the way that I am, which is I just work with them on an hourly basis. So it's like there's no commitment, you don't need to have like a certain level of wealth. And I think it's kind of similar to like what you would do, where you might work with a young couple who, or like a young person, whatever, who's buying a starter home and, maybe then like they're ready to trade up and you kind of go through them with like throughout their life cycle, which to me is really valuable because there's so much education and so much support that needs to be provided. But like the way the wealth management industry typically works, like there's no structure to do that. So that's really like part of what I'm trying to create at Sunny Branch is like that structure for people who are in this space where they're like, I know this is important, but I have no idea what to do about it. And there are no resources out there for people like me.
I saw another thing that was on your website where it said, just because you grew up in a family with money doesn't mean you know, like something like doesn't mean you know anything about
Anything
money.
about money.
And I think everyone around them might just assume they do. Maybe sometimes they assume they do more than they do. And then all of a sudden they're in a position where, oh my God, I have this giant responsibility. What do I do? And you're there to help guide them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's really true. Like you growing up in a family with money does not automatically confer any sort of knowledge. It's about what your parents teach you, and like, many families shy away from talking about money, and like, they actively try and hide wealth from their future heirs. Um, but I think there is sort of this broad societal acceptance that like A, if you grow up wealthy, like you don't need help because you know what you're doing, or B, like, well, if you do need help, you know like what a nice problem to have, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, poor you, like you have inherited money, or like you're gonna inherit money, or like it's hard for you to plan your life because you don't know when your parents are gonna give you money. And like, yes, they're all like privilege problems, like not even privilege problems, but sort of like top 1% privilege problems. And I
Like
recognize that, and I've
most
always
people would say, this is a problem I would like to, if I'm going to
yes,
have a list of problems, this
yes,
is one I would like to have.
yes. And I think that is absolutely true. But just because it's a problem you want to have, like, it doesn't mean it's not a problem. And it's like, okay,
Right.
say like my clients don't have like jets, but like say you have a jet and like your jet engine breaks, like you still need a mechanic to fix the
Yeah.
plane, right? Even though like
Yeah.
yes, it's a privilege that you have a jet, you don't need the jet, and like blah 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 blah, but like still you own this thing that doesn't work and like you need to
Well, and
fix it.
especially if
And
you
so
inherited it, like you didn't even buy the jet. You just have one now. It's not, it can't fly. Like, what are you going to do? I wouldn't know. I would not know what to do. I mean,
no.
I would be Googling jet engine repair. I mean,
And just again to be clear, my clients don't have jets, and I would also have no idea what to do. But you know, I could figure out who to call. It's what I mean. I think again, an area where we're similar is a lot of our job is knowing who to call.
yes. Okay. So are you taking on new clients at the moment?
I am. Yes, I am. I've been experimenting with a lot of different fee structures in 2024. I had to confirm it was still 2024. Um, and I've like dialed it in for 2025. So I'm excited. I'm working with future inheritors who don't have like significant assets to manage. I'll work with them on an hourly basis. And that's really like for projects that are as small or large as people are interested in exploring. And for people who have wealth, have inherited wealth, I work on a more standard assets under management based fee schedule. So yeah, taking new clients of all kinds. But I do recommend that you check out my Instagram, look at my podcast, check out the website to make sure that you kind of like my vibe before you reach out because it is very specific.
It just seems like such a benefit to be able to trust somebody in your position. when somebody's in the position where they need somebody like you. So I'm going to put all the links on this when I finally post it. I will have all the links to you. I want to just ask you one more thing,
Yeah.
which is that, like, can you think of one thing that the average person would never imagine would be a problem if you suddenly inherited $30 million?
30 million, not a problem. Well, okay, so I'm gonna say the the amount of complexity, I think, because people think, oh, like they think of $30 million and they think of like winning the lottery, $30 million. Like, oh, you have $30 million in cash in your bank account. And like for some people who inherit, that is maybe the case. But in reality, this is not going to be like a fun answer, but I couldn't think of any fun answers.
Doesn't have to be
In
fun.
reality, most likely, if you inherit $30 million, you've got real estate, you've got illiquid assets, you've got at least 3 different trusts, you have attorneys, financial advisors, CPAs. There's probably like a lot of wonky stuff going around. And it's like, you don't even understand. Like, it's not like you inherit $30 million and then you feel rich. Like, it just feels complicated and it feels overwhelming. And like, there are a lot of places where you can step and make mistakes, not necessarily in like oh, I wasted all the money situation, but like, with the IRS, like with the government, like just all of these pitfalls and things that you don't understand. And I think people just really underestimate like what a harsh landscape that is when like you're a person like me, like you're living your life, you're hanging out with your friends, like you have kids, you're living this sort of like normal life. And then all of a sudden you like vault into this echelon of like professional advisors who are mostly older men who like talk in a very specific way, and like it's very isolating and confusing and overwhelming. And also like someone you love died, and that sucks. Like, not to be
Yeah.
overly simplistic about it, but I think people just really underestimate how difficult it is and how isolating it can be when you're in that situation and like you don't have anyone to help.
Yeah, that's another part that I became aware of seeing your Instagram was that, like, people are being thrust upon with this incredibly complicated thing while going through the grieving process very often. So, I mean, I think people are lucky to be working with you, and I will put all the links to your info, Sunny Branch Wealth. And thank you so much for doing this. Also, I really can't wait to see what you do with your
Oh
house.
my
So,
God, listen, it's already, whew, it's a lot happening.
yeah.
This spring we'll have you over.
Okay, can't wait. Can't wait.
All right.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.